Welcome to the news and why it matters. I'm Sara Gonzales, joined by, as always, Mr. Glenn Beck and Stu Burguiere, and Chief Researcher of the Glenn Beck program, Jason Buttrill. Thanks for filling in for us, Jason. Glenn, what was the top story for you?
Top story for me is a strange one. I'm going to go with the John Wayne excoriation.
Okay. All right. Stu.
Bernie Sanders has said something that I think everybody at this table strongly agrees with. And it's pretty rare when this happens, so I feel like we should highlight it.
Huh. All right. I can't wait to get into that. Jason.
There's a strange debate on what to do with ISIS wives all over the world that now want to go back home. It's a very easy debate for me, but there's a debate out there, so I think it's worth it.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, I'm shocked that this is controversial, but we'll get into that. All right, I want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. Glenn.
American Financing is a great company that it works for you. They don't work for a bank. So people always say, oh, I hope the bank, I love this, gives me a loan. They're not giving it to you. They're selling it to you at an exorbitant profit.
It's not charity.
Right, it's not charity. And so you have to have somebody who's working for you because the bank is working for them. They want you in something that's going to make the most amount of money for them. American Financing is a home-run operation. I hate to say it was started by a family. Now it's, a countrywide business. But they still have those same principles. They work for you. They don't get any kind of kickbacks from the bank. And if the loan isn't right for them and for you, they won't sell it to you. Yeah. I like the way they do business. It's AmericanFinancing.net.
All right, Glenn, you said John Wayne.
Well, John Wayne, how much is he influencing your life today?
I don't think he does.
Tell me what you know about John Wayne.
I was going to vote for him, personally. I mean, I'm still on that train, unless you can convince me otherwise today.
He was a famous actor.
He was a famous
cowboy.
Actor. He played a cowboy. Anything else?
Kind of an iconic figure in an old-time Hollywood.
Do you remember John Wayne?
I mean, only from, my grandpa watching the black and white movies on TV.
Right.
I don't, but that's because I'm much younger than all of you.
Right, okay. So nobody really even remembers hearing him speak. I do, but I'm 55, and I remember him barely, okay?
Speak outside of a movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would see him, in
like in
interviews and things like that, but barely remember it, okay? Well, we've got some John Wayne controversy for you. 1971, he gave an interview to Playboy magazine. And here's what he said, quote, "I believe in white supremacy. We can't all of a sudden get down on our knees and turn everything over to the leadership of the blacks." John Wayne.
Wow.
That's
bad.
That's bad. That's bad. Then he says, "I don't feel guilty about the fact that 5 or 10 generations ago, these people were slaves. I'm not condoning slavery. It's just a fact of life, like the kid who gets infantile paralysis and has to wear braces so he can't play football with the rest of us." Shocking, right? Bad. Horrible.
Okay? Suboptimal.
All right. Now, you could try to explain it away with him saying, look, I'm not responsible for slavery. Because that's what we say now. I wasn't here. He's saying, I wasn't here.
Right.
Okay? But it's still horrible.
Yeah.
Last one. I don't feel we did. This is about Native Americans, which I have some news on. I don't feel that we did wrong in taking this great country away from them, if that's what you're asking. Our so-called stealing of this country from them was a matter of survival. There were great numbers of people who needed new land, and the Indians were selfishly trying to keep it for themselves. Okay, so none of these are good. None of these are good. But
so bad.
Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Yeah. John Wayne plays no role except in the image of the tough, gunslinger.
Toxic masculinity, really.
Right. The nice guy, the American, wholesome, clean cut, yet he's going to stand his ground. You've got to destroy it to its core. That's the only reason why this is coming out now, because you have to destroy every bit of it, everything in that foundation, every memory, every image. You have to look at John Wayne. You got to take those pictures of that tough cowboy, because that's the face that most of the world thought of when they thought of America, and that tough pioneer cowboy. They thought of him. You've got to now replace that with, he's a monster. Okay? When will we start going through the works and the papers of Margaret Sanger? When will we start going through the works and the papers of Franklin Delano Roosevelt? When will we start going through the words and works of Lyndon Baines Johnson?
Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson.
I mean, huge racist.
racist.
Not like he segregated Washington, D.C. or anything.
Or
Come on, Stu.
brought back the KKK into existence. I'll give another one. Bernard Sanders. By the way, it was 71 for John Wayne, 72 for Bernie Sanders. We read the disgusting, revolting piece that he wrote about weird sexual stuff. We don't need to get into it.
Man and woman?
Rape, yeah.
Man and woman.
Rape fantasies, essentially.
That women have rape fantasies. Here it is. Let me get a man goes home and pleasures himself. His typical fantasy: a woman on her knees, a woman tied up, a woman abused. Now, I'm going to take John Wayne over that guy.
A million times over.
A woman enjoys sexual relations with her man as she fantasizes about being raped by 3 men simultaneously.
Bernard Sanders.
That's Bernie Sanders.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, which one?
And I can confirm that that's not true. Absolutely not true.
My wife did that too, but I said you're way out of the mainstream, I'm sure. So here's the thing.
We may just be prudes. I don't know, but
here's the thing. I'm going to make a pretty bold stand here. I will never hire John Wayne to act in anything. And if anyone hires him and they put John Wayne into a movie today, I will boycott that company.
What if it's a choice between Elizabeth Warren and John Wayne for president?
I will vote for Elizabeth. I mean, I have
it's a binary choice.
Binary choice.
Binary choice.
I have to vote for Elizabeth Warren. I won't vote for John Wayne.
Oh my God!
That's what I'll tell you until I close the curtain.
At the bare minimum, he should be stripped of all committee assignments immediately. Like today.
He should never serve as president. Now, the left. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because I won't vote for Bernie Sanders either.
Well, you know what they did with Bernie Sanders? They gave him $3.3 million in 48 hours. So that's what they did with Bernie. They gave him lots and lots and lots of money to try to win. He was, as of this moment, is the front runner, without question, for the Democratic nomination. So,
do you think that is this not being widely reported to where they would know that it existed?
This came out during the last election.
Yeah, it came out during the last election.
Yeah, I've heard this.
I mean, I remember that, but it's like we live in these circles where we see all of this, and I just wonder if like the average crazy socialist Democrat who's voting for Bernie Sanders hasn't seen it.
No, they don't care. Okay. Here's why this is coming back out again. It's coming out because the Democrats want it out. They don't want Bernie Sanders. They want Bernie Sanders to be in the party. Remember what WikiLeaks showed us.
Yeah.
They don't want him as the face. He's what? He's going to be 82?
He was 82 in 1971.
Right. So how old is he going to be? He's not going to be the president of the United States. They don't want him in there. He's a disruption.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want those policies. They just want them from a better package.
They don't want it from his face. They don't want him to be the poster child for it.
Mark my words, if you want to see the next big Russian bot campaign, it's going to be all pro-Bernie. And it's coming soon. If it hasn't already started yet, he is about to get a ton of these mysterious Facebook ads that are propping him up.
It's interesting because there was a Political report today about Russian bots, and it did mention it hitting in a negative way 4 Democratic candidates. And I know Harris was one of them. I think Beto was one of them. I think Biden was one of them. I can't remember if Sanders was one of them or not.
But how is Biden going to survive in this atmosphere?
Really? I would say easily.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's such hoopla for Bernie Sanders and the young vote, because he still is, I think, considered today the most popular, which is odd.
Yeah, one of the most popular
politicians in the United States.
I don't think that's odd at all. I think he is viewed as somebody who's been saying since 1972, yeah, I like to see women tied up, and I'm a socialist. I was just in Cuba. I was just in Russia. with the Soviets. I think some people like the fact that he's never been filtered. That's what people like about Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I think that's true. If I could just quickly shift my seat here for a second. It's like a backup quarterback. It's true, though, with Bernie. I think it's going to be interesting to watch him try to go through this campaign, because when you're a backup quarterback, right, like everybody loves you. They all think, all they see is potential. And so that's why I think Bernie Sanders has these nice numbers. He polls best against Donald Trump. He beats Donald Trump by a large margin in almost every single poll. That's not true for the entire field. And his approval ratings are very, very good. However, he's never been seen as a serious thing, right? Like, he's just this guy over on the sideline. He's kind of the cranky, he's like the guy, Muppets guy up in the...
I bet you half the country think he's Larry David.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I think when he's now running with the scrutiny of a front runner, right? That's a different experience for Bernie Sanders. It's going to be interesting to see how he comes through it.
You said that. Well, I want to make sure to get to this. You said that he said something that we would agree with.
100%. I legitimately agree with every word.
And it was
of this.
the essay that he wrote.
No.
Okay.
Thank you for please clarifying that. I did not. That is definitely not something we would all agree with. Watch this clip and tell me if there's a word of it you disagree with.
Many of the ideas that I talked about, Medicare for all, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, making public colleges and universities tuition free. All of those ideas, people say, oh, Bernie, they're so radical. They are extreme. The American people just won't accept those ideas. Well, you know what's happened in over 3 years? All of those ideas and many more are now part of the political mainstream.
So you're saying the party came your way?
Well, I don't want to say that. I think most people would say that.
Mm-hmm. What a cop-out thing to say. I mean, I wouldn't say that, but
like, it's the scientific consensus is, of course, lined up with that. I mean, that is an amazing statement and a completely true statement. Yeah. I've talked about 2013 when he did Medicare for all, 0 co-sponsors. Now everyone in the field pretty much agrees with that. I'll give you one person who doesn't, though. John Delaney. Now, I know you guys have followed John Delaney's campaign closely, but he has made it to all 99 counties in Iowa already. That's because he started running in, I believe it was like 26 years ago he started running. He was the first person in the field.
John Delaney, isn't he the guy who played Frasier's dad?
I don't know. I don't think it's the same person, though. But so Delaney was a former congressperson from Maryland and a businessman, and he is in the race and been in there for a while, polling at about 1% right now. He is running as the most conservative Democrat in the race. He was on CNN this morning. His distinctions he's calling out socialism. He's saying, like, look, I'm not a socialist. I don't want socialism. Capitalism is the greatest job creator, the engine of job creation in human history. He's saying those types of things. And you could see those statements occasionally from even Barack Obama back in the day. He would occasionally make a speech and tip the hat a little bit towards capitalism, even though I don't think he was ever a big believer in it. But the two policies he brought up as differentiating himself from the rest of the field were really interesting to show and illustrate Bernie Sanders' point. One was Medicare for all. He criticized Medicare for all. He said, you know what, that's not right. We shouldn't have that. Let me, I have a better plan. It's a great plan for health care. What we need to do is have basically a public option, low-cost basic care for everybody. And think about this. He's the most right-wing of the Democrats. Okay, the most moderate of the Democrats. Mm-hmm. That puts him to the right of Barack Obama as the president. Because Obamacare did not, he was basically arguing for Obamacare plus a public option, which is where Obama ran in 2008.
Public option meaning a government insurance plan?
A government insurance plan. So God, now believe me, I think it's a terrible plan. But I mean, I'm just talking about the movement of this party. Yeah. He is to the right of where Barack Obama was as a president. The same thing I'll give you.
But where Barack Obama was as a candidate.
As a candidate. So, and then one more thing. Excuse me, he's to the left of them. And then the other one I'll give you was global warming. He said, "Oh, this Green New Deal is crazy. This is John Delaney. It's too much. I'll give you just a carbon tax. It's going to be a great carbon tax." That's something that Barack Obama didn't even propose as an actual plan. Again, the most right person in the Democratic primary is to the left of Barack Obama as a candidate and as a president. That is where this party is. The entire field is to the left of Barack Obama, and some Barack can't even
far,
see from where he is. Yeah. That is an amazing change in a very short time.
Happened in the last 3 years.
That's the time frame that it happened in is what's so terrifying. All right, back in a minute. You think that Bernie is just like so bitter that he's like, you when I suggested all of you. Yeah, that's when he said, okay, that's
why he's that.
Before we get into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, Cosmo Hurts Kids. So Miss Victoria Hearst from the Hearst family, who actually owns Cosmopolitan magazine, has decided to come out and take a stand, not to censor Cosmopolitan magazine, but to take a stand against the pornography that they're displaying all over their front pages, all in their articles. I mean, it's just absolute garbage. I know Glenn says it's always been garbage, but I swear it's gotten way worse as the years have progressed.
Oh, yeah, look at the country. The country was, not in great health in the 70s. Look at it now.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a teenager and I would try to, just read it. It would come in the mail for like a free trial or something. And I didn't see anything that I was really just like horrified by. I can't even read it now as a grown woman because I'm just horrified by the cover. So, so Victoria thinks that, not that they should be, their speech should be stifled, but that they should be applicable to the states that it's harmful to minors law, which would mean that it would prohibit anyone from under the age of 18 to buy the magazine. So it's not crazy. It's not, trying to destroy them. It's just trying to protect our children. And I don't know if you've noticed, but society is in total decline and our children need protection. So if you want to learn more about this campaign, go to CosmoHurtsKids.com. That's CosmoHurtsKids.com. All right, Jason, you said the ISIS wives.
So this is interesting to me because a buddy of mine, I think at the beginning of the week, sent me this story. And we actually have a friend that's out in Syria right now with another group. And he's giving us a whole lot of video about like these ISIS wives. Like they're confused in Syria and places like Iraq what to do with them. Just 5 ISIS wives over the past week or so detonated suicide vests as they were walking towards Kurdish forces or U.S. forces.
But only 5.
Yeah, just 5 of them. So there's this kind of sense that, the ISIS wives that traveled from foreign countries to the caliphate were victims. Many of these
that's what I was
brainwashing, grooming.
They had to make the decision to go there.
Right. And see, that's another thing. Like when these ISIS wives were headed toward the caliphate, this is the height of their brutality. When the news was coming out that they were raping Yazidi women. This is after they cut off the head of people like James Foley. So there's no illusions here on what they stood for. This is the worst of the worst. But now there are some people some of these wives are in these camps while they're trying to figure out what to do with them, and they want to go home. They're like, oh, sorry, all of a sudden, I just completely didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, there was one that was comical. She said that, there was just, when I got there was no electricity. And, and there wasn't as much food. So
that was your problem.
Right.
And also, I'm not sure that she did much research before she decided to take that jump, because I think a quick little search would indicate that she should not be prepared for.
They knew exactly. There's this one case of this. So there's a case I think a few days ago of a woman in Britain, or she's British and she wants to go to Britain, but their foreign minister, like the Secretary of State, revoked her citizenship. The people in the UK instantly I think mostly from the Labour Party, started calling him racist because he did this.
Oh my God.
There's another woman in America, and this is just coming out, I think, yesterday and today. This story is starting to break. And she also is like, hey, yeah, I researched everything. I knew what I was getting into, but when I got there, it turned out she had 3 different ISIS husbands. She had, I think, a couple of kids.
No.
And so just watch, but before you make a judgment, see if she looks sincere. I pulled some video here. It's about a minute and a half. But before you make a judgment, let's see how sincere she is on feeling sorry. Let's see that.
And I heard that the Khilafah was announced. I thought it was obligatory upon me to go, and I went without thinking of the consequences, without thinking twice, really. Everyone just gave their preferences on who they liked to marry, and then...
Were you given a list of men?
You were given a list, and then you can choose.
You were given a list of men,
yeah.
and you could choose a man.
Oh, it's funny.
Does that sound crazy to you now?
Sounds very crazy.
Laughing.
Women in the Islamic State are meant to be treated with honor and stuff, and we didn't see really any of that, actually.
By this time you're 21 and you were widowed twice.
I mean, to go back to America being widowed 3 times with an orphan child, it's not common at all, actually. I'm probably the first. Yeah.
And what if you had a message for people now watching this in America, what would it be?
I wish I could take it completely off the net, completely out of people's memory. Really.
I bet you do.
I regret it, and I don't want people to picture me with that kind of mentality. I hope America doesn't think I'm a threat to them, and I hope they can accept me. And I'm just a normal human being who's been manipulated once, and hopefully never again. Hopefully, I will. When I go back, I will learn more, and I will try to help people not make the same mistake that I have.
I'm sorry. No, you're not forgiven. You're not. You knew exactly what you were getting into. We owe you nothing. We owe this woman nothing. People are saying, oh, but we have an obligation because she's a U.S. citizen. I'm sorry. No, she's not. The first thing they do when they show up to the caliphate is burn their passport in a ceremony. When she got there, that's the first thing she tweeted and sent out on social media was bonfire incoming. It was her U.S. passport. She gave up her citizenship. She effectively joined another country. Yeah. She joined the caliphate. We owe this woman nothing. And the people that she hurt, the people that she was directly responsible for, were the people that she's at now in captivity at. In Syria, Iraq, the Kurds. She belongs in one of their prisons. Yeah. And she doesn't want to go to one of those prisons because they are awful, they're horrible. She should have thought about that before. She's going to get no cushiony, Supermax prison over here.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel bad for the child, but...
Sure, it's horrible.
Yeah, that sucks, but... what are we to do about it?
Look at her. She has no remorse.
No.
There's no pivot point she went through. She's cracking up, and she had to smirk the entire time.
That was a weird video. She...
like Omar.
She said...
it is Congresswoman Omar. I mean, she's got the same kind of happy mentality of, hey, when she was joking about Al-Qaeda, remember? Yeah. She was joking about it, and she's like, they say, Al-Qaeda is bad. Well, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
One of the stories they told about this woman was that she got to ISIS and she saw them murdering people. And you're like, okay, well, if you're living in the U.S. and you see all these brutal murders going on in front of you, maybe that would actually turn your head. But then they added the line of, and they came off as much different than the ones she watched on YouTube. It was like, well, so she had watched the murders, actually watched them happen, and that made her join.
Yeah.
And then when she saw them in real life, it was a little more disturbing. Well, it's hard to feel too bad for that. Yeah. You made the judgment with the information needed.
I don't know if I'm going to go join the Nazis. I mean, I've seen Schindler's List, but then when I got there and they were actually putting them into the ovens, I thought, you know what, this, and I didn't say anything until after we lost, and now I've got no place to go, and I'm a prisoner of war.
That's all.
And then I'm like, you know what? It's a little different.
And this woman didn't shut up when she saw this stuff. Like, if she saw that and got freaked out, and she didn't go through a change. The story in the New York Times, I think that came out today, was talking about how the first thing she did, or while her husbands would go out and fight, She was busy on social media. She was telling people in America to do attacks here in America. She was telling Americans to rent trucks and run people over. She was also saying, hey, she did a call out. She goes, there's tons of Aussies and Brits here. We're all my American, jihadis. Come and join the caliphate.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Like, I think there's the one, you want to make one nuanced line here a little bit. I do feel weird, like if someone from Colombia comes here and he's a murderer and we catch him and then we're stuck taking care of him for the rest of their lives. Part of me could understand an argument for, look, it's treason. Right? Like, yes, she gave up her citizenship, but she committed treason against the country. And I think there's a good argument to be made to bring her back here and put her in prison for the rest of her life.
Nope.
And
treason is very clear. Treason is the only crime in the Constitution. You have to have 4 witnesses. I bet we could find 4 witnesses. And it is a death sentence.
If she comes back here, she certainly doesn't come back to be freed, I guess is my point.
Right. And it's sad. We got to go. It's sad that that's controversial to say. Right? Back in a minute.
There's no basis to, say she's a citizen. She gave up her citizenship. So what do we owe her?
Glenn, when we talked about Native Americans earlier with John Wayne, you said you had some news.
Well, last night I got my DNA test back from 23andMe, and I am 10 times more?
13 times.
13 times more Native American than Elizabeth Warren.
Wow, congratulations.
So I am, I've got to go have a powwow, and I'm really offended by Elizabeth Warren for, coming in and trying to
steal your heritage.
Steal my heritage.